Hello, summer readers and students of Oscar's Academy of Witchcraft and Wizardry. This is an activity for week 3 of the summer reading program. And you may remember from the last time we met and we went through our herbology course that a lot of these plants that are in your backyards are actually useful for a lot of different things. So I actually have some of those plants and some extras that I brought with me today that have been dried and prepared for use in potions. So that's what we're doing today. We're doing potions class. So we're gonna make 3 different things today. The first thing we're gonna make is a facial toner to help with skin blemishes and acne. The second thing we're going to make is a skin soothing bath tea potion. And the third thing that we're gonna make is a folklore remedy called thieves vinegar. So we have some fun things here, and that's what all this is here. And so first, let's get started with our facial toner. So one of the things that most acne products are target is closing up the pores so that you can make sure that nothing is getting in there and causing problems or irritation. And one of the other things that most acne products do is they try to dry the skin a little bit. So that's what most facial toners are. They're astringent, and a lot of times they achieve this with various ingredients, but most often they include alcohol. And alcohol is really, really drying, but it's actually too harsh oftentimes, can create so much dryness that your skin can crack, which makes it vulnerable for bacteria to get in and create more acne. So I'm gonna teach you how to make an alternative to that with some things that are much more gentle for your skin and things that grow wildly here. If you don't want to forage or you can't find these, or maybe it's the dead of winter and there's none around, there are several herb shops in New Hampshire that you can actually buy these ingredients for pretty cheap at. So we'll get started with that. The way we're gonna make this is we're basically gonna make a tea. So our first ingredient is actually witch hazel. Now, witch hazel that you buy at a drugstore is a distillation, so it's gone through a process with water, and it's not very potent. It's not very high in many of the medicinal properties of witch hazel. So if you can find witch hazel, which grows all over the place, I have 7 trees in my tiny little 1/3 of an acre yard, so if you keep your eyes out, you might be able to find them. But I have some leaves that I freshly harvested today, and I brought them so that you could take a look at them. So I'm just gonna come closer. So these are what the leaves look like. They're quite big and kind of ovally shaped. They're a lot more rounded than some of the other leaves out there, but one of the ways that you can identify witch hazel is that they've got these little they look like hazelnuts, which is why it's called witch hazel. These little guys on them. And eventually these will turn into flowers that will pop, but right now they're just these little green guys. So all the parts of the witch hazel tree are used. I think the bark is the most concentrated, but because we're making a tea, we're gonna use the leaves. And we may throw some bark in there, but we're probably not gonna get a whole lot out of it. Now, if you wanted to use the bark, which you certainly can do, like I said, it's full of a lot of the good properties, you would wanna make a decoction. So a decoction is like a tea, except for instead of pouring boiling water over the plant material, you actually take the sticks themselves and you're gonna put them in a pot of water, and you're gonna boil the water at a very low temperature for about 20 minutes. And then you can put the lid on after that, remove it from the heat, and let it steep for a while. And that just helps. Some things that are like a little bit more woody, it's harder to get those medicinal properties out of them. And so it just kind of helps to break down those cell walls so all the good stuff can come out. But today we're gonna use the leaves because we're making a tea. And you could also cut some of these leaves now. You can use them anytime. Some herbs you want to collect at certain times of the year, but these will work any time of year. You want to cut them off as long as they're there. But you can also take them and dry them if you would like, or you can dry the twigs for later use if you would like as well. So we're just gonna put these guys in here. Yeah, that's probably fine. Maybe we'll rip them up a little bit just so that helps the feel like having some extra fun and you have a mortar and pestle, you can also do that. It's always a fun way to prepare potions. I particularly enjoy that. I have a nice stone one at home. Okay, so that's our witch hazel. Our witch hazel is highly astringent and really helps to kind of close things up and tighten things up. Another plant that is great at doing that same kind of thing is yarrow, and you may remember that we talked about yarrow in our herbology class. So it was kind of those long feather-like stems with those little feathery leaves, and this is what it looks like when it's been dried and cut and sifted. So you can see that there. So we're gonna add maybe like a tablespoon. That looks good. So this is also going to help tighten things up. It's also going to help dry out some of those things, and it also is pretty soothing. So if you have any irritation, it's going to help soothe that irritation. The last thing we're going to put in there is stinging nettle. Stinging nettle comes up in spring, and it's good for so many things, but it's not a fun thing to harvest because it will hurt. So if you feel like harvesting it, be very careful, wear protective gear on your hands. But what most people don't realize is that when you dry the plant, it takes away that sting. So if you dry it or you cook it, you're not at risk for getting that stinging nettle sting anymore. And a lot of people use it in soups and stews and things like that. It's actually full of nutrients, very good for you. And it's often used as a blood purifier, which is great in the springtime because our hunter-gatherer ancestors would get through the winter on really fatty nuts and heavy meats, and so when it came time for spring, they really needed a good to cleanse their kidneys and their liver, and so this is a perfect way to do that. But it's actually got so many wonderful attributes to it and so many good things that it can offer, and we're actually going to use the nettle in this because it's also antimicrobial. Which means that if you have cystic acne or anything like that that's caused by bacteria that's kind of breeding in the buildup of sebum, which is the oil that your natural oils of your skin, this is going to help to prevent that from growing and hopefully will help clear your skin up. So we're going to put 2 tablespoons of that in. That seems good. So we have water boiling over here if you would like, and you have a nice kettle at home like this that you can just pop water in and click on, use that. If you prefer a cauldron, you can use that too. Just depends on what you have handy. You can also do it over the stove. I wouldn't heat the water in the microwave because you really need it to be just at that boiling point, and sometimes it's tricky to get that just right. But you want it to be just at boiling because that heat is what's going to help pull out all of the constituents, all of the magic that we want to be infused into our potion from these magical medicinal plants. So while that is heating up, maybe we can start talking about our bath tea. All right, so for our bath tea, we're just gonna make a single use of that right now. And our bath tea is gonna be about 50% Epsom salts, 50% herbs. So maybe we'll put Epsom salt in last because they kind of smash things down. Okay, so the herbs that I picked to use for our bath tea potion are sweet fern, which I have in this bag here, and red clover. We didn't find any red clover when we were going through our herbology class. We're kind of in an in-between time right now where usually we have a lot in early summer and then it kind of heats up and they go to seed, and then we'll get another round of it kind of as we move into fall. There might be a few around here and there if you keep your eyes out, but come September, we'll probably see tons and tons and tons of fields of these little pink flowers, and they do, they pop up everywhere. So they smell so good. These are dried red clover flowers, and that's the part that is most commonly used in this plant. Like random, okay. So this is what they look like. I harvested these a couple weeks ago. They were pretty sparse, but I was able to find some. So I just picked the heads off and I put them in a basket and just left them to dry in a very, dry and dark spot for a little while. So red clover is used for a ton of things. Traditionally, it was also used as a blood purifier, like nettle, but in more recent years, it's become known for its ability to help with women's health and with men's health issues, balancing certain hormonal imbalances and things like that, but or helping with like cramps and stuff. But we're actually going to use it for its topical gifts, which it's very super duper soothing. So it's got the ability to heal like eczema and all kinds of skin irritation, really. So it's just a great kind of tonic herb for the skin, and it can be used regularly. You don't have to worry about overdoing it with red clover. It's not harsh, it's very gentle. Something like this facial toner that we're using, you probably want to use it once a day or maybe once every other day. It's pretty drying, depending on your skin type. If you're like an oily skin type, you could probably use it more often. If you're combination, maybe once a day, once every other day. If you have drier skin, it might not be something that's a great fit for you. But the nice thing about red clover is you don't really have to worry about overdoing it with red clover. It also smells kind of sweet, has a lovely sweet scent. And it tastes pretty good too if you're making a tea out of it. So I'm just kind of taking apart these blossoms right now into smaller little bitty pieces. And I will show you what that's looking like right now. In herbalism, we call this garbling. When you take plant matter and you break it down from its larger form into more usable kind of smaller pieces. All right, so we've got our tea here, we've got our water here. We're going to fill this up. I want to say about a cup. You could probably do a little more because we got a good amount of plant matter in there. But remember, this has no preservatives in it. And so because of that, it's going to need to be kept once it's done steeping and cooled. It's going to need to be kept in a jar or some kind of container with a airtight lid and put in your refrigerator for safekeeping, so that no mold or anything grows on it. If you notice there's some fuzzy stuff or something gathering on the top, you can toss it or you can scoop it off if it's not a lot and use it for another day or two and then toss it and make a new batch for the next week. So you can also use this in a bath if you would like, or as a body wash, like if you have some problem spots on your back or on other places in your body and you'd like to use it other than your skin, you can do that too, just by dabbing a cotton ball in it. Or you can even put it in a spritzer bottle and like a little tiny spray bottle and just spritz. So those are different ways that you can use it. And so we're gonna let that sit here and steep for probably the rest of the time that we're talking. The longer you let it steep, the better, because it's gonna keep pulling that stuff out. And ideally, you'll have something with a flat surface that you can cover it with so you can trap all those wonderful volatile oils. But we don't really have that, so we're just doing this today. It'll be fine, right? It's not an exact science. It's potions. It's magical. You don't have to worry about it. So back to our bath tea. We've got our red clover in here. Maybe we'll do a little bit more. This is actually a large jar that I have that I bought commercially in bulk. And it's not quite as fresh, but I'll just show you the difference. You can see what the difference is in that. Oh, this one's got leaves on it. As you can see, it's a little less green, a little less vibrant, maybe a little less fragrant. That's all right anyway. So we're gonna keep garbling these up. Put them in there. And the next thing we're gonna add is sweet fern. So sweet fern is actually one of the ones we found out at the Parks and Rec field down there when we were doing our herbology class. And so I have some here that's been dried and garbled. That's what it looks like there. It's a nice deep green and it smells so good. So I put maybe 2 tablespoons of red clover in there, and we're gonna put about the same for sweet fern. Sweet fern is also very calming. It's really good for use in poison ivy because it's slightly astringent and drying, but it's just an all-around good skin soother. So it's also often used for eczema, amongst other things, but it's probably most known as a treatment for poison ivy, as a way to kind of calm down poison ivy rash. So we'll give that a little stir. And we've got about a 1/2 cup, maybe less, maybe not quite, maybe about a 1/3 cup, maybe a little bit more than 1/4. And so we're gonna put now some Epsom salts in there. These are just normal everyday bath salts, basically. Help soften the skin. And they're pretty soothing, so let me stir that around with the end of this. So we'll stir this up. And just so we have your bath tea. Now, the way that you use a bath tea, this actually looks kind of cool. See it in there? I love to put this in a jar and then shake it up. If you have other like bath oils, you can put a couple of drops in there, or essential oils if you like that. Those are other ways that you can kind of customize it. But when you're getting ready to take a bath and use your bath tea potion, you'll want to have either like a large brewing basket, or you'll want a little bag like this. I just got these in bulk for pretty cheap online. And so what you do is you just fill one of these guys up. I don't know, with about a 1/2 cup of your potion blend here. And that way you don't have leaves all over your tub. I mean, in theory, you could just put this straight into the bathtub, but I've done that and it's really annoying to clean up when you're all done. And you have to put like a little thing over the drain. It's really annoying. So this cuts down on the mess. We're basically just making like a little bath tea bag. No, this is just like a cotton muslin bag, and you can actually empty it out when you're done and reuse it for the next time if you dry it out. So once you have it filled, you can just cinch it up, tie it off. When it's time to take your bath, you'll just want to tie this around the faucet, and as the water runs in, it'll run over it, and so you want to make sure your water's pretty hot. So it'll run over this and kind of infuse it into the water, and then when your bath's full, you can just pop it off that, toss it into the bath to continue steeping for a while, and you can leave it in there the whole time that you're taking your bath, and that will help soothe your skin, and it'll smell nice as well, and it's just really relaxing and enjoyable. So that is your bath potion. Alrighty. So the last thing we're gonna make is thieves vinegar. I guess its original name was For Thieves Vinegar, but somebody got the bright idea to copyright that. Even though this recipe has roots that are 1,000 years old. Yeah. So before we make it, I'm going to tell you the story about thieves vinegar and how it originated and why we make it. So many, many years ago, during a period of time in Europe when the Black Plague was rampant, there was a little village in France, and people were noticing that these graves were being dug up, graves of people who had died from the plague and were buried. And so their graves were being dug up, and people were robbing the graves of these poor people. And everyone was shocked because the plague, right, like it's contagious, extremely contagious. So they were trying to figure out how these people could keep robbing graves without getting the plague that all these, people were infected with and that were in the graves themselves. So eventually somebody caught them. They caught the grave robbers, and they were 4 brothers. And when they asked the brothers how they were doing this, they said that they used this vinegar that their mom made, and it became known as the 4 Thieves vinegar. So it's originally from I believe the Marseille area of France. I'm not super familiar with France, I'm not gonna lie, but I think that's kind of an area that it's from. And it's still sold today in that region, this vinegar. There's been so many different variations of this vinegar. The early ones included meadowsweet, which actually does grow wild here. And it also included hyssop, I think. But because the one we're making today is gonna be for both internal use or external use, we're gonna keep it pretty simple. And we're gonna use the most basic ingredients that are in almost all of the versions of Thieves vinegar. And that's rosemary, thyme, and sage. We're gonna spice it up a little bit with some black pepper as well. And because lavender smells amazing, we're gonna add some lavender. So obviously rosemary, sage, and thyme are all common kitchen herbs. You probably have them in your pantry, and if you don't, you can easily pick them up at the grocery store, as with black pepper. So this is something you can certainly easily make without having to get any special ingredients or take any special trips to herb stores if it's something that you find you like. So what we're gonna do is you're gonna need a empty jar, clean jar. I always reuse my jars because I go through them. This is a peanut butter jar, but we're gonna recycle it for some Thieves vinegar. So we're gonna do equal parts of all these. A great addition to this would also be fresh garlic clove, chopped up if you have it. So basically we're gonna fill this jar about halfway with herbs, and then we're gonna pour vinegar on top of it. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll start with just 2 spoonfuls of each of these, and we'll see how far that gets us. Now, the reason why they think this worked was because, and the original did have fresh garlic in it, is that these herbs are known for being antimicrobial. They keep pests away, so they probably kept fleas away and things like that that were causing the plague. They're antiviral as well. A lot of these are antiviral. A lot of these are used in natural cough syrups or as herbal steams to kind of open up the airways and to kind of clean out whatever's going on in there. So that was thyme I just put in. And we're gonna put some lavender in. Lavender is like pretty strong, so I don't know if I'm gonna do 2 teaspoons of these. Maybe I will. Maybe, why not? Okay. Lavender is super popular now, and if you're looking for some for this, you can buy it at pretty much any craft store. But if you're planning to use this internally, like you want to consume this and not just use it topically, I would probably make sure that whatever you're getting is food grade. So again, you can buy this at an herb store, you can probably order online, any of those things. And then we're gonna put in some black pepper corns. I'm just gonna do 1 spoonful of black pepper corns. Like I said, there are so many variations of this. You could look online and find one that like interests you if you're really interested in seeing some of the other variations, or even doing maybe a more traditional one. The more traditional ones have some herbs that can be used, like they can be consumed, but are probably safer as topical herbs. So a lot of people will use this as a basis for a natural cleaner around their house. Some people will use it as a basis for a natural insect repellent. And others just use it as a basis for a vinaigrette. I'm going to use apple cider vinegar, which tastes really good. It's raw, so it has its own benefits of itself, and you can buy this at any grocery store. And I'm going to use it because it's most versatile, so I can use this for salad dressings, I can use it as a marinade, I can use it to clean with, really anything that I want to do. I can mix this when I'm done making it. I can mix it with honey and take it like a spoonful a day to boost immunity. So it's really very versatile. And so once you figure out how much herbs you get in there, I didn't fill it up quite halfway, just make sure that there is enough vinegar to cover the herbs and up maybe like an inch more. Now they're going to want to float, but if you can remember where the herbs were, they're about here. You just want to make sure that you put a little extra in there because the herbs are going to soak up that vinegar, and they're going to swell a little bit. So once you put your vinegar in there, you're going to put your lid on tightly. It's a great idea to put a piece of wax paper under there because the vinegar can be corrosive on the lid. I'll probably do that when I get home. I did not think to do that before I left my home. Full disclosure. So once the lid's on tight, we're going to give it a shake. And then every day you're going to want to give that a shake. You're going to store it in a cool, dark cupboard for about 2 weeks. At that point, you can strain out the herbs, and you can either add equal parts honey if you want to use it as like a culinary kind of thing, or you want to just take a spoonful of it every day like a syrup. Or you can add more vinegar if you like white vinegar or something like that, if you want to use it for a household cleaner, and then add water to it. There's so many ways you can use it. And so there you go, there you have it. There's our thieves vinegar. Well, that does it today for our potions. I'm going to strain this guy up and jar him up and stick him in the fridge for use this week. And other than that, I think everything's good to go. You will have herbs and instructions, brief instructions for making all of these wonderful potions in the kits that will be available to pick up. So keep an eye out on the summer reading account, like your summer reading account, for notifications on when those are ready to pick up. And if you can't figure it out, you can always just call us at the library and we'll be happy to help you. Thanks for joining me today at Potions.